Let's start. The first speaker comes from the WWF's Global Cities lead. She is Jennifer Lenhart. Global Cities has engaged with over 700 cities in 50 countries. Jennifer previously worked at UN Habitat in Nairobi, Kenya, at the city of Malmo in Sweden, and an urban sustainability consultancy in Seattle, USA. Currently, Jennifer parks her bicycle in Stockholm, recently moving back from Santiago de Chile. Jennifer will talk us about the role of cities in tackling climate change and loss of biodiversity. Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Excellent. It's so wonderful to be here with you today. Can I just get a confirmation that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. And I'm just starting my presentation, so apologies for the short delay here. And I can just say that my husband arrived from Chile to Stockholm today, and he has never experienced such cold in his life. So it's summer in Santiago, so it's quite a shock for him to be in this wonderful Nordic winter, but certainly a pleasure. Now I think you can see my screen, correct? Yes? Can I confirm that you can see my screen? Yeah. All right, I think I will just start. Please just see. Can I confirm that you see the screen?
Confirm.
Do you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you and we can see the screen.
Perfect. Okay.
Wonderful.
Excellent. So then I will go ahead and get started. And it's absolutely wonderful to be here with you and to hear a little bit more about Lahti. I will also say that my colleagues at WWF Finland have been quite impressed by the work of the city, including on energy efficiency. And I know that we have worked with your city in the previous City Challenge and the work that you're doing on energy, but also on transportation. So congratulations on being the European Green Capital. Just to move on, you might be wondering why someone from one of the world's largest conservation organizations is here to talk about cities. Well, this is very evident for those of us who are looking at the linkages between cities and conservation and climate change. Most notably, every year WWF presents its, or every other year, WWF presents its Living Planet report. And the most recent report, which was launched last year, had a very staggering finding that between 1970 and 2016, the world has lost 68% of the size of most animal populations. 68%, that is almost 70% in many of our lifetimes. And in some parts of the world, for example, Latin America, this is much, much higher. So where do we go from these scary statistics in order to really see the important role of cities? Well, as many of us probably know here, cities are home to 55% of the population, 70% of carbon emissions, 75% of energy use, 75% of natural resource consumption. So there is a very strong biodiversity link, and of course have huge potential when it comes to GDP. So cities are instrumental when we talk about really creating a greener future, a future that is focused on renewables, cleaner air, greener cities, more accessible cities. And of course, this is also very, very important when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's goals to alleviate poverty or hunger, to address health, education, and certainly the environment goals related to land use and climate change, and even how we interact with our oceans. If we don't get it right in cities that are home to 55% of today's population, but up to 70% of the global population by 2030 and beyond, we won't meet the SDGs. So cities really matter. But it's not just about cities contributing to climate change, but also how they are impacted. So for example, a city like Beijing has already warmed by 1.7 degrees Celsius, and under a business as usual scenario could warm up to 6.1 degrees Celsius if we don't get climate change in check. Certainly a big part of this is not only about climate, but also urban heat island, how we plan our cities, how we live in our cities, how much cement and concrete versus green areas, an ability for wind to flow through our cities is very important. So we don't want to only put it on climate change, but climate is also important. So one of the key areas where WWF has been engaged is something that we call the One Planet City Challenge. And we would love to invite more Finnish cities to join us either this time or in 2 years from now. But this year we are celebrating 10 years of the One Planet City Challenge. Just to let you know, and to this date, we've had more than 700 cities from 50 countries join us, and we're very happy to say that we had 280 cities join in 2021. And why is this important? Well, we start with really helping cities to submit their climate data, because if we want to have ambitious climate action, we need to know where we're starting in order to create a baseline, in order to know where we're going. Now, it's not just about getting that data in or celebrating strong city leaders, but also about really helping cities to align to the Paris Agreement and the 1.5 degrees Celsius target. So we have developed a framework, an assessment framework, to say, according to your data, this is how closely this particular city is aligned to the Paris Agreement. We do this in alignment with the Cities Race to Zero under the UNFCCC, so that under the UN Climate Convention. We also do this in alignment with the Science Based Targets Network. So we're collaborating, always working with other organizations in order to learn from each other and try to, create more robust methods when we're going forward. And so if you join the One Planet City Challenge, and we encourage you to do so, I think this year's deadline is this week. So whether or not it's possible now or certainly the next time, I would be happy to let you know. But we do want to recognize strong cities, just like the European Green Capital, to really celebrate strong success stories. But we also want to provide strategic feedback on how your city can get closer to those goals. And also, how can we engage with our citizens? Because it's not just what local governments do, but also all the different stakeholders that are engaged in their particular city. So that's kind of our flagship program. But from there, we've been, building on a lot of different areas of importance in terms of how we can collaborate with cities and city leaders. And one of these, of course, which is so important when we're talking about climate, but also biodiversity, is how we plan our cities. How do we design our cities? Are we creating streets for people, or are we creating streets for cars? And we have this great graphic. I'm not sure if it's going to work on here, but I'm going to try. Yes, it's just a quick GIF in order to help you envision, what kind of cities do we want to live in? And if we start to be really creative with our planning, if we start to plan our cities with cycling in mind and with people in mind, then we have spaces to actually green cities so that they can become places for people and nature to thrive within the ecological limits of our one and precious planet. So within WWF, one of the areas we've been trying to push for is really connectivity. How can we create connectivity through linear parks or other socio-ecological corridors in cities to link ecosystems, to link people, to address a lot of the SDGs by default by having nature better linked into our cities? And it's really important to understand, and this statistic always shocks me every time, but when humans started to settle down, we settled down in the places with the richest biodiversity, the best soils, the best access to water, whether it be fresh water or salt water. So these were places naturally that were biodiversity hotspots. So by 2030, up to 40% of protected areas will be within 50 kilometers of cities and other urban areas. So we really need to understand that cities are not just separate from nature, but they are entirely integrated, both the nature in and around cities, and also the co-benefits that nature brings to our cities, but also that they are so important to really maintain the vitality of the nature around our cities. I wanted to just highlight one area that we have been working with in a whole collaboration with UN Environment, with Rocky Mountain Institute, with the World Bank, and so many others on looking at nature-based solutions for cooling. So those of us calling in today from Scandinavia, where it's so cold outside, might not be thinking about the importance of cooling right now, but the cooling needs, the air conditioning and other cooling demands are growing exponentially. But what we want to advocate for is it's not just about electronic cooling, air conditioning, etc., but how can we use street trees, green roofs, etc., in order to really create some cooling needs. And so I'm very happy to announce that at the climate conference there was a new cooling handbook called the Sustainable Urban Cooling Handbook that was launched. It is online and very accessible for those of you looking at cooling for the hotter months of the year, but also, what is the role that nature can play in this regard? And regarding some of the other aspects that we have been looking at within, what is the role of urban nature-based solutions, we recently launched a publication looking at some successful cases. And I wanted to just highlight 3 of those for you today. So one is the beautiful city of Malmo. Indeed, I did used to work for this fantastic city, and there are many other great examples, but I think that they've really honed in on a great area of looking at a troubled neighborhood that had problems with flooding and abandonment, and really seeing how can we recreate this space using green roofs, using open stormwater management, engaging the public in order to see, how a problem or a challenge can become an opportunity. And in doing so, seeing, an increase in biodiversity, a reduction in CO2, a reduction in unemployment, and, really finding creative and collaborative solutions in order to do so. Here, the focus was on green roofs, open stormwater management, green walls, and public engagement, but there are many different cases. Jumping over to Medellin in Colombia, this city has also worked quite strongly with the Green Corridor. So just a little bit like WWF is pushing for this idea of connectivity in our cities. So they planned 36 different corridors in the city, planting many different native trees in order to bring down the air pollution, but also to address temperature changes. They hired a lot of local people, and they saw, a greener Medellin is better for all of the residents. So there's, a lot that can be done when we really try to integrate nature into our city planning. And finally, in Singapore, which is often lauded as one of the best examples of really integrating a city and nature, and certainly this is also a city-state with very limited land space availability. So to how to really think creatively in terms of, realizing that cities and nature need to coexist. So by taking away some of this concrete stormwater management systems, and instead looking at an ecosystem-based approach to stormwater management, they were able to increase, species of birds, create local tourism with 4 million visitors, and a 3-kilometer long meandering canal that creates, a new biodiversity hotspot for both nature, but also certainly for people as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to say in terms of my overview of where we are, but I was also asked to just provide a few reflections from the climate conference. I was there representing both WWF Sweden, but also our wider WWF Cities team. Of course, much more was happening than that. It was a huge conference with so many different people, and it wasn't my first climate conference, but it was certainly a very unique one in terms of, masking and testing, and not to mention the real urgency to address climate change that is increasingly understood by the public and also by some of the politicians. Now, I would say that from WWF's perspective, we did not get as far as we need to go. And this is very evident. We've seen this in the media. We've seen this in terms of some of the watering down of some of the final texts, whether it was, from going from fossil fuel phase out to fossil fuel phase down, and some tricky wording around coal, et cetera, et cetera. But the hope does remain, and I definitely want to emphasize that. How we have been phrasing it within WWF is the window to 1.5 degrees Celsius alignment has not closed, but it is much more narrow than it was. So the urgency is greater than ever. But it is still possible. And, we need to really see this is a all hands on deck opportunity. It's not just about the commitments of national governments and the pledges that they make both before the climate conference and the World Leaders Summit, but also in the actual text itself. But it's about all of the different stakeholders, the non-state actor groups, whether it's cities, companies, universities, youth, faith communities, and so many more. So we did see some positive signs, and that I do also want to flag. We did see for the first time that, nature, this in many senses, this was really a nature COP. And we do have the upcoming Biodiversity COP, the CBD COP, that will be happening in 2022. But already nature was very well placed as a climate solution, but also something to realize that the climate impacts on nature. So this conversation was much more integrated than previous, and this is something that we were quite positive about. Of course, there were some strong signals on finance, but we're not there in terms of what is definitely needed, especially for a lot of the countries that in the least developed countries that are ready to make ambitious pledges, but need the resources. So there is a lot that still needs to be done in order to create that ambition, but the momentum that you felt in Glasgow out on the streets, but also in some of the dialogues was quite strong and significant. So just wanted to balance that out with some of the severity that is still required. When it comes to local governments, I just wanted to flag that ICLE, the city network ICLE, leads the local governments and municipal authorities, or the LGMA constituency, within the wider climate change process. And here, with their lead and with many different organizations and many different cities supporting, we are very happy to see that for the very first time, multi-level action, including the important role of local and regional governments, is understood already in the Glasgow Climate Pact preamble. So I'm going to read this out loud here. Recognizing the important role of Indigenous peoples, local communities, and civil society, including youth and children, in addressing and responding to climate change, and highlighting the urgent need for multi-level and cooperative action. And this idea of multi-level action is something that we have been pushing collectively in the cities and regions community for the last few COPs. So this is a very, very positive signal. You can also see, for example, under Article 6, a need for sustainable, integrated urban and territorial development. So there are lots of different side notes that are really understanding the importance of cities and regions. I believe cities and regions were one of the largest constituency there. So governments, of course, are there at the national level, but cities collaborate. They collaborate in their own countries, but they also can collaborate across national borders. And so we're seeing that this is a real positive space for action. This is not new. It's certainly not new to this COP. It's been around for at least 10 years, but every time there is building momentum, there are stronger solutions, there are more voices, a lot of voices from the global south, echoing also what has been also said by the global north, and learning from each other. So it's not just about, what we're doing in Sweden or Finland, but also what is happening in Chile or South Africa at the local level, and this momentum to collaborate. So I think there's a lot of positive signals coming out of here. I have one more slide, or actually 2 or 3, but this was one of the things that was asked to share with you is about, what is the role of cities in digitalization? Now, I will say very openly and honestly that I am not an expert on this topic, but it is something that we do see certainly emerging and increasingly important. So I just wanted to flag a few areas where we see that this is very important. I talked already about the importance of data gathering, and this is something that we do very strongly within the One Planet City Challenge, and we do this with CDP, and we do this with ICLE, and we work very closely with cities in order to report that data. But that's really about someone in the local government helping to report that data. But there's also so much data that we have out there because of digitalization. So whether it's the ability to see energy consumption patterns, or where are people naturally cycling through the city, and how can we then ensure that they have safer cycling routes? If you can take cell phone data and use that in order to lobby to local governments to build better cycling lanes, and this maybe is a lesser issue in Finnish or Swedish cities, although it can still be an important issue. But I just moved back from Chile, and parts of the city have fantastic and extremely safe cycling in Santiago, and other parts do not, but people are still cycling there. So how can we harness that data to really advocate for both local but also national governments that this is a really important transportation choice in our cities? In terms of quantifying and knowing which trees are in our cities, we talked a lot earlier in my presentation about nature-based solutions, there is a great app called iTree, where citizens can report on what trees are there and or areas where they might need to have better tree coverage, because tree coverage is also an issue of equity. It's not always that all parts of a city can be green, but many parts of a city might have less access to green space, and often in richer neighborhoods there might be more green spaces than in less developed parts of a city. So something that we really need to look at. But I think also the importance of citizen science and citizen engagement, and also countering what we've seen, whether it's the trends of fake news or other challenges, so that we really bring this together and help people understand the importance of sustainable cities and help them to be a part of that. Energy systems obviously are so important, and I think very developed in this part of the world, so I won't go into too deep on that. But I wanted to advocate for one thing. It's not just about digitalization or smart cities in terms of technology, but also smart and engaged citizens. So on my final slides, I just want to share what we've done a little bit within WWF. We have a campaign that we run in connection to our One Planet City Challenge called the We Love Cities. And this is really about, creating love for the place that you live. Because if you don't love where you live, you don't want to be part of the story of your city and envisioning a more sustainable future. So this is both a digital campaign where you can vote for your city, you can share images, you can tell your local leaders what you think you need, but it's also an offline campaign where local mayors and citizens plant trees together or organize trash cleanups. And we want to really advocate that, the sustainable city is about what the local governments are putting towards in their climate ambitions and their biodiversity ambitions, but also how citizens are engaging. And just a few weeks ago, we launched Transforming Cities Together. It's a new public engagement guide. It is now online, so if you're interested, you can find it on our website, or I'm happy to share it with the organizers after. And I think that's just a little, this is my final slide, so just, what is in that actual guide in terms of how to really work on public engagement. So inclusivity, commitment, and building trust, which is so important to really get people on board. And with that, I will thank you. It's very much a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was an honor to hear your presentation. If you have audience, please just use the chat and we will ask Jennifer. But I have one question in mind. You showed some good examples from the cities, and we will have a couple of more examples from Lahti and from other cities in Finland here today. How about the learning between cities? You mentioned that, but I think these solutions that cities have tried out are something that we should scale and we should learn more from city to city. What are your kind of tips, or how have you accelerated the learning between cities?
Excellent. Well, I hear a small echo. I don't know if I'll talk anyways, but hopefully that won't be too much a bother for you. There are different ways. I mean, I think the importance of city networks is very important in order to really create that linkages between cities. Of course, in the European Union, there are many different research projects and collaboration opportunities to really work on the ground. And I enjoyed very much many years ago when I was working in Malmo to learn from a lot of other cities, whether it be on transportation or climate change adaptation. And this is also something that we would like to strongly do and work with cities on within WWF. We have a platform called Urban Solutions, and I think we've actually had Lahti on there and some of the great work that you're doing, and that it can be a place that other cities in a very friendly way can learn quickly what cities are doing. And then, of course, the importance of conferences like this, especially as we move a little bit more towards online and offline collaboration to really learn and share. And yeah, I think there's the learning potential is huge. What I did see in Glasgow is, cities speaking together on the same platform, sharing stories on how they're working through some of the challenges, and maybe they already know how to do it, but building that momentum to say, we're not doing this alone, but each city is kind of finding its way to struggle through, but in a positive way, towards a more equitable and a more sustainable city. So I think this learning and sharing aspect is very good. We would be happy to work with you in order to share some of the lessons that you're doing. But I think what's, to me, one of the most positive signs is also seeing sharing that is coming, global South cities that are bringing lessons to the North and vice versa. It's not just about, what we're doing in Europe, but what is happening in South America or South Africa, or, the learning that can go across, so that there's different levels of learning and that we need to emphasize and support all of those different methods.
Exactly.
Jennifer, thank you for a really, really excellent talk. It was a pleasure hearing this. I work as the program director for the Lahti Green Capital, and we are already reporting to the CDP protocol. Mm-hmm. So just trying to imagine how much work there would be to be part of the One Planet City Challenge. What do you think? How much more do we need actually to report, or is it roughly the same kind of data?
Fantastic question. I'm very happy to hear that. Actually, no, it's not any more work. It should be as easy as clicking a button, depending if you've already put all your information in the CDP portfolio. And this has been very important for us because we don't want to create one more platform. We know how busy city leaders are, so we have aligned the questions that we have for the One Planet City Challenge to what the Global Covenant of Mayors is asking, as well as quite a strong dialogue with the European Covenant as well. And then we have all of those questions. If you're already reporting on the CDP, then it should be just as easy as saying, yes, I want to share this with WWF. I know that the deadline was sometime this week. I think it's at the end of the week, but I will clarify with my colleagues and happily get back to you, because I think, it should be just, if you're already doing that work, then let us help you and keep the recognition and the great work building. You're doing fantastic work. Obviously, you're being recognized by the European Green Capital, which is quite an ambitious recognition as well. So congratulations there.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful.
We actually have more cities in chat asking the same question. There's a question from Alexei from Ukraine. Dear Jennifer, what is the primary point of contact at WWF for a city that is going to take its first step towards green future?
Wonderful. Well, we have an email. It's OPCC, so One Planet City Challenge, OPCC@WWF.se. It's the Swedish office that is coordinating for the global network. And if you write us there, then we can also link you up to the right person at your national level as well.
Wonderful. We will add the link in the chat. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So that was quite a good news that cities have really recognized in the COP also.
Yeah,
Glasgow.
Definitely. It's so important. It's great to actually hear that we have listeners there watching this, so you can definitely comment and ask questions also while we are having the talks, and also in social media you can take part utilizing the hashtag #TheSmartCityTalks. So please feel free to comment.
Yeah, and actually we heard that we had some issues with the sound at the start, so maybe we have to present ourselves again. So my name is Kalle Nieminen. I come from Sitowise, or Sitowise, as you want to pronounce it, and we are a smart city company working all around the Nordics.
And I'm Saara Vauraman, and I'm the program director for the Lahti Green Capital 2021. Our year is almost ending, so we've had a lot of activities going on. And actually, we started our year in January very much in a similar kind of weather than we are having today. It was about -20 degrees, and we had outdoors events. And last weekend, we had also events here in Lahti, again in extremely cold weather. But we were happy to get actually people still joining us, and it was super great.
So you are in a phase where you are wrapping up the learnings from the year.
Yeah. Well, even though we are living this kind of weird times with the COVID, but we were able to get actually quite many different organizations coming and join us. We had more than 30 different kind of events, also 80 projects going on all the time, and different private partners, but also NGOs. So a lot of expertise have been in building this year. So That's great.
And before we continue, I have to use the opportunity to thank you. It's been a pleasure for Sitowise to be a partner this year.
Yeah, it has been super great to have really concrete also projects up and running with you, and we certainly learned very much from those.
Wonderful. Maybe it's time to continue.
Yeah, definitely. So now we will hear 2 short examples from Sitowise on how digital solutions can help municipalities and cities to implement their Agenda 2030. To begin, Saul will showcase a solution called Mayor's Indicators, which enables cities to track and compare their performance towards the United Nations 17 SDGs. After Sauli, we will learn from Jarko about the philosophy of the digital twin enabling smarter and sustainable cities and better decision making. After these 2 stories, we will continue discussion together with Sauli and Jarko. But now, Sauli, the stage is yours.
Hi and good afternoon. My name is Saul. I work at Sitowise as the product owner of Mayor's Indicators, a service for local authorities to promote and enable sustainable development via digital tools. So Mayor's Indicators is a web-based data toolkit made for local authorities. The service is based on open data and official data providers offering a unique approach to local level SDG implementation. Mayor's Indicators is a centralized data platform that connects various data sources into a service entity. The 17 SDGs are applied on a local level, promoting sense-making of the common goals and local level actions. Currently, the service offers over 200 indicators aligned under each corresponding SDG, where each local authority may use the data regarding their own needs and programs. The service is developed with pilot cities from Finland, Sweden, and the UK, and further on with continuous dialogue with our users. Since going public in 2019, we aim to expand and further develop our tools to match the many needs that different local authorities have, and we currently are up and running in Finland. So what we do with Mayor's Indicators is we collect, connect, provide, update, and develop. Mayor's Indicators allows cities to access a versatile data supply reflecting performance of the many areas behind local level sustainability in the Agenda 2030 SDGs framework. So let me next show you how this is done. Mayor's Indicators enables various ways to work with the data supply, and our goal is to develop the dataset and tools according to the many different demands of local authorities so that the service may be applied in any possible way, as we recognize that cities are in different phases of sustainability work and also have different resources at hand. The unique dataset and tools allow cities to measure their progress over time and benchmark themselves to other comparable cities and municipalities. Cities may navigate through the around 200 indicators data bank and examine how they are doing in different areas. All the indicators are aligned to its corresponding SDG, and with any indicator, your city may be compared with any other available city in the data set. The 200 indicators data coverage applies for now for Finland, having had a focus on developing the data supply and service design for Finnish cities. We are planning to expand the concept abroad. Mayor's Indicators includes turnkey sustainability reviews and also tools in which users may create and customize reports of the data regarding their local area. reports may be generated by choosing relevant indicators and making them into visual documents as shown. And also there is always the possibility to connect your city's data table into other software. So data of local areas are provided for many usages and can be examined and downloaded via indicator data or index calculations. So we have also computed an index application for each city and indicator by normalizing the data and then connecting it by SDG. So this SDG score application is run for all cities and indicators in the database based on city-specific most recent year data. So all the score data can also, as well as the indicators, be examined and further used. Also with our city ranking tool, the indicators can be examined via a simple ranking system where cities are given a rank regarding indicator-specific attributes and the relative performance of other cities. So there are also other countless ways to analyze and refine the data provided in Mayor's indicators. Such composite indicators as the applied SDG city scores or the ranking system are possible to compute from, for instance, a smaller group of cities or indicators. So there are many possibilities to further tailor data for a more specific use. So Mayor's indicators consists of a lot of information where the service promotes local sustainability work in cities by the many indicators aligned by SDGs for examination and analysis as well as communication purposes. And as our goal is to provide data and tools that cities of all sizes may use and apply in their own work, in addition to quantitative tools, we provide sparring workshops and other ways to learn and understand the role of SDGs and sustainable development in cities. We aim to promote comprehensive learning and knowledge sharing. Since the publication in 2019, Mayor's Indicators has reached hundreds of users around cities in Finland, and our goal is to expand the service and data further to improve local sustainable development work. Regarding open data, data access, coverage, and quality are factors that need constant attention to enable proper data usage. Regarding this, we listen closely to local authorities and their needs, and also follow the data providers to bring new feasible data in Mayor's Indicators always when possible. Best practices can be found through data and knowledge sharing, and we believe with Mayor's Indicators it is possible to find the correct match of tools and data for any kind of local area. Thanks for watching and thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Jarko from Sitowise, and today I'm going to tell ideas and thoughts of digital twin in built environment. I'm also going to show some cool videos from projects we have done lately and hope that it opens our visions to design urban areas in future. Here's one important fact to start off this presentation. Almost 70% of the world's population will live in urban areas by 2050. So we are trying to manage growth of population. It's always communication, collaboration, and interaction. We have many types of people with different backgrounds, and we need understandable and visual 3D environments to show changes of smart city. To create digital 3D environments, we need source data, which is based on smart designing, city models, and information models. We need project plans and information systems to store data. And we need different publication systems to visualize 3D environment, and which makes possible to creation of digital twins. In this slide, we can see how real-world and dynamic city environment transforms to 3D geometry and to visual window of data flows of digital twins. This is a simplified picture of 3D environment ecosystem. Visual representation is just the top of the iceberg. Data which is lying below water surface defines content of digital twin and how complexity increases. Next few slices I show how the static visualization model changed to digital twin step by step. Here we can see a complexity level in the down of this slide, and we start static visualization model. Complexity a little bit increases. We have point of interest, 360 images, weather system, viewing balance and designs. It becomes a dynamic environment. Then we are adding planning and design, like city planning, architecture, landscape design, etc. And next level is that we can create the simulations based on this digital twin, visual digital twin. We can get lighting, radio, Wi-Fi, 5G, or weather and time, people, traffic, whatever we want to simulate in this model. Then we are going to more complicated model. We call this complexity level 3, and this is actually a real-time data. We can show the connection to real-time devices, sensors like HVAC machines, IoT, utilization rate, cameras, whatever. And the most important thing is that what are the benefits of digital twin? Analysis and forecasting. That's the most important thing. And next videos, I will go deeper of this idea. So this video is from Luxturin 5G project, which is an ecosystem which creates the digital backbone for a smart city. This is a Kera area pilot route from Espoo, where we created 3D digital twin from real-life environment. This will help cities to tackle the grand challenges regarding urbanization and climate change, boost sustainable development, and enable the digital transformation to smart cities. This is the way to use game technology to design smart and modular city objects and manage and modify them. We can navigate freely in this model, change weather and time. We can create simulations like radar, LiDAR, or even 5G network. We can also get accurate weather information. We can create different camera types. We can create smart lights that we can control by changing color temperature, intensity values, and light range. Digital twin enables fast and smart decision making for data-driven services in digital infrastructure. And here we can see the final picture of this video. So this video is from our project, which was a quick trials piloting program of Business Tampere. We created a virtual environment from Hervanta area for autonomous driving simulation based on HD map data and WFS interfaces of Tampere city. We can navigate or drive freely in this model. We have a dynamic weather and time systems again, and trams and buses move in real time by using GPS location of real vehicles. Here we can see how we can add a point cloud in this model. This project includes also real-time simulation tool of 5G wave propagation to show coverage of waves in street base. And final video is from Recotech 2019. This was a demo project from a square of new Aalto University building. We used probably the most advanced and accurate VR headsets of Varjo. With the eye tracking, users were able to change color temperature on lights or change ground surface material. Also, users were able to get information from smart city objects. After this VR session, our solution made 3D heat map from the user's eye view. This was an interesting tool to observe 3D environment and how we see it. What is interesting targets and can we find guiding to move unknown places. This can be predictive planning and designing. I think that this is definitely something new we can use in the future. And that's the end of this video. Thank you very much. That's all from my part.
Thank you both. And you can definitely still join our discussion and send your comments there to the chat, and we'll take it to the part of the discussion. So thank you, Jarko, for a really inspirational talk and also very, very cool videos that you show. To sum up a little bit about your presentation, how would you describe the role of the digital twin for the cities to move towards sustainability?
I think it's a better understanding changes in our cities, environment, everyday lives. I think that highly visual digital twin is a common language for a better understanding how we create sustainability, safe and lively cities in future together. I think that's the most important thing.
Do you think that will also help like the regular citizens to understand it more?
Yes, definitely.
Because
we understand it. Yes.
It actually comes back to what Jennifer said just a couple of minutes ago, that how we engage with citizens, that you need a common language to make all the plans or all the design understandable for the citizens, and maybe digital twin can be something, a tool for that, as you mentioned.
And also for decision makers. They are ordinary people who don't understand designs and plans.
I have one further question for Jarko. I have heard your presentation, of course, many times, and it's quite a technical. You need a lot of data. You need static data. You need dynamic data. But what do you think? What is the first thing that cities should consider if they want to start to build their own digital twin, or want to start work with the digital twins?
That's a difficult question, I must say. Like you say, data is it's a base of digital twins. Yeah. We need to gather data. We need to understand past and present. We need to know what has happened and why, what is happening now, and how we can interpret and analyze that data we can get, and based on that we can predict future and create much more better cities, like I say earlier. So I think that to gather data and use it
Yeah.
I think that that's the most
And also maybe consider what is the question that they want to kind of
Yes.
find from the data. What are the things you want to forecast or simulate?
Yes.
Well, what do you think? Is it more realistic to start with buildings or traffic, or what is kind of the the easy starting point for the city?
Now, some cities has already city information models, so we can use that as a kind of like a 3D base map, and we can add different kind of designs like infrastructure models, building information models. But we need to see that there can be many kind of digital twins in future. We can have a master digital twin. We have minor digital twins like individual buildings or streets or whatever. So it's a huge ecosystem, I think.
Yeah, that sort of goes hand in hand with the planning perspectives of the cities.
It's a hand in hand with design and GIS.
Yeah.
I think that together they bring us a much more better solutions.
Great. So thank you, Jarko, a lot.
Thank you.
In the beginning, Jennifer Lenhart highlighted the role of cities in reaching the Agenda 2030 objectives. Saul, you work closely with municipalities and cities. How do you feel? What are the biggest challenges and obstacles maybe for cities in reaching the SDGs or sustainability?
Yeah, well, first of all, a very good speech from Jennifer, and perhaps the most common answer, or at least a very common one, is resources or the lack of resources. But then again, as in Jennifer's speech and as what we talked already is the knowledge sharing part, and actually what Mayor's Indicators also does is tries to bring the sense making in, because a lot of work that cities already do is in the very core of sustainable development work, to just provide and promote the understanding of their everyday work in that is already, you don't have to like invent the bicycle again or
True.
so on. So that also, and again, there's a lot of different stuff in different sizes of cities, but maybe these are the most common ones.
I've also played with the Mayor's Indicators tools, and it's quite cool actually to compare your city with other cities. Also, there's a lot of data about Swedish cities there. So that's a bit of hint to others to maybe log in and try to look at the tool. So what do you think, what should a city or municipality do next if they are seriously interested about the Mayor's Indicators?
Again, we are up and running in Finland, and if a city from Finland is, it's a different question, and it's very easy to get it in use. Regarding abroad, it's been maybe a bit more long-run objective to expand abroad the concept, and regarding perhaps data collection and so on, it might take a bit more time than for Finnish cities, but everything is possible, and perhaps regarding certain networks or areas, it's always more efficient to gather data from more cities than a single one. So if there's a city network interested, then just be in touch and contact.
To you?
Yes.
Okay. So Sauli Heina from Sitowise will be your main contact then. So thanks a lot for both of you. It was an inspirational. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we just saw 2 case stories on how digital solutions
And now we're back.
Great. So we just saw 2 case stories on how digital solutions can support sustainable development in cities. Kalle, what about companies and the private sector? Is sustainable development there important?
Well, there is a long and a short answer, and the short answer, which is maybe enough now, is that it's highly important for companies and for private sector. I will quickly highlight a couple of things that we have seen, kind of key things to take a look when you start to work with your own sustainability work. First of all, the common language, as Jarko mentioned, is important in a city, but it's also really important in a company. That all of our experts, we, for example, have almost 2,000 experts in Finland and Sweden. It's really understand that everyone can speak the kind of a language of Agenda 2030 or sustainable development, and they understand their own relation, their own connection and own impact to the wider picture of sustainable development. This is, for example, why we are using this so-called sustainability tool, where we link every project, hundreds and thousands of projects yearly. At the starting point of the project, we link the project with the SDGs. So this is our way to kind of make sense of how we work with that, or what is our link and impact. Another thing is innovations. Because with the companies, it's not only about the footprint, it's all about handprint also. And to increase our positive handprint, carbon handprint, we need to kind of innovate new tools and solutions. And that actually leads us back to cities, because what we have found is that when we innovate new sustainable design methods or digital tools, we really need our clients and stakeholders to innovate with us.
Yeah. And the cities can be platforms for that.
Exactly. And also that cities and companies and also third sector should like together build the platforms. And as we like to say nowadays, it's all about ecosystems, but platforms and ecosystems where you innovate together. You try to find the right challenges and start from the challenges, and only after that start to build the solutions.
I very much liked the way how you talk about common language, because I think the SDGs can be a common language also for the cities internationally. And I see it more and more now happening that it's really relevant to link your actions to the SDGs, because then you create common sense, common understanding.
Exactly, and it's a common language for companies also to collaborate. You have also worked quite a lot with companies and of course other stakeholders during the year. You want to share any pitfalls or insights from that work?
Well, we have 14 different private partners, and you as one of the main partners of our project. Of course, I mean, we created partnerships when we had also the COVID, so it was pretty difficult for some companies to join, but we are still happy to have as many as this. And what we see definitely is that when private and public organizations are doing partnerships, it's really what is important is that it's very concrete, because then we have like concrete projects to work together, and also it sort of has to create a stronger narrative. So what we try to do a lot during the Green Capital was that we made a lot of communication about what's going to happen, and to try to also reach maybe new audiences like this. So I mean, the cities have different kind of players working than the companies have, so that could be quite interesting for many.
Exactly, and I think digital twin is a really good example. As you probably saw, Jarko knows quite a lot about digital twin, and I think the magic happens when we collaborate with the city that has a problem that they want to solve, maybe an area where they want to have more positive impact. And then with the technical persons, you can check, is the digital twin the right tool to use here? So it's all about like starting from the concrete challenges, but building together the right solutions.
But what I've seen now within like 1.5 years is that especially the larger companies are now very, very ambitious with climate targets. So it seriously looks that they are challenging the cities actually, which is super good.
Wonderful to hear. I think it's time to move on. Next, we will have a really concrete example, actually, from Lahti about citizen engagement. We have Anna Huttunen from City of Lahti. Anna works as a project manager for sustainable mobility. she also led the really interesting CityCap project, which will be presented shortly. Or actually, it will be presented now. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kalle and Sara. It's great to be here. So my name is Anna Huttunen, and as Kalle said, I work as the project manager for sustainable mobility. Now I will shortly introduce our CityCap pilot that actually ended in March this year. So yeah, we did a personal carbon trading pilot on mobility emissions in Lahti. And yeah, what did we learn? That you are going to see shortly. As you know, probably most of you at least, is that Lahti has very ambitious climate targets. And of course, mobility is in Lahti, as in many other cities, the biggest challenge by now. We did the CityCap project in order to foster citizen engagement, innovation, of course, in a longer term, reduce the mobility emissions, and of course, to promote sustainable mobility in our city. Because our goal is that by 2030, more than 50% of all trips will be made by foot, by cycling, or by public transport. And of course, there's still a way to go, but I hope, and I'm pretty sure that we are going to get there. And a good example of an innovation that a city together with companies and universities can be done are apps, for instance. And in Lahti, we did the personal carbon trading application. We also developed a model for that as first city in the world as we know it. There have been some projects like 10 years ago before Lahti. There has been some research in UK and in Australia, but we haven't received any data or knowledge that some other city had done as a citywide pilot before us. And what is the CityCap app then? What did we do and how did it actually work? So the idea of our personal carbon trading system was that we calculated the carbon cap for the city, and then based on that, we calculated the carbon gap for our citizens. And then when the people started to use our application, they first answered a set of questions. For instance, like if they live very far away from the city center, if they have several kids, or if they live very far away from the workplace. And then based on that, their weekly personal carbon budget was calculated. And then since our app was very automatic, so it could automatically detect the different types of mobility and calculate the CO2 emissions, the user only had to have their mobile phone with them, location on, and then just start traveling around as they do. And then if the person was cycling or walking or taking the train or their car, the app would calculate the carbon footprint. And then, of course, based off their usage, they would use their budget. And by the end of the week, they would know if they surpassed the budget or if they were able to go below. And in case they were able to save some of their budget, they earned virtual euros. And those virtual euros could then be used on the marketplace of the application, and the users would receive, for instance, bus tickets or swimming pool tickets or some discounts in local cafes. And this is how it functioned. And I have to say that the people, we also asked the people, for instance, if what they think would be the fair way to share the allocations, share the carbon budget, and all of them were in the meaning that it's the fairest way is that your living situation has an effect on the amount of credits that you have. Here you can see we had 3 years time. We started in the beginning of 2018. We developed first the model from scratch, and then we started to develop the app from the scratch. And then in September 2019, we were as far that we were able to open up the application for our citizens to test. And of course, in the beginning, there were a lot of like technical bugs and a lot of problems, because of course, when you develop a digital solutions and such a complex system that we did for the first time, there are a lot of stepping stones and kind of gateways you need to pass. And then based on all the feedback that we received, we improved the app. And then by summer 2020, we were able to start the actual pilot period of the personal carbon trading. But of course, we had a cyber attack on the way, and that was kind of like a little bit on our way. And of course, there was the COVID. So we also had to postpone the beginning of our actual pilot because of the lockdown started in Finland in March 2020 as well. But yeah, in the end, we were still able to make 6 months full pilot period, and we also got very interesting results of our pilot, and of course also some interesting results, for instance, because of the COVID situation. So we had like 3,000 registered users, and depending on the week, 350 active users. This amount was fluctuating during the weeks and months of the pilot. And like I mentioned earlier, so almost all users found the allocation method fair. And the main drivers to use our application, the first one was information on your own emissions, which is of course very important when we consider like what is the biggest outtake of the app. Then of course personal challenge was important. People like to compete against yourself or maybe against other people as well. And then only the third one was rewards. So for some people, also the discounts and the bus tickets, for instance, were the reason to use the application. 36% of the users that answered the end survey said or stated that they changed their mobility behavior. And 47% knew what personal carbon trading was before the pilot. And yeah, this is always being asked if it was possible to cheat. And yes, it was. And 21% cheated. And yeah, Finnish people are super honest, so they also told us that they did. And this is kind of a fun fact these days. And here we also got like very interesting data on the actual like mobility and the trip data, how it changed and during the COVID lockdown. So basically the citizens, they were traveling 50% less than usually. And yeah, here you can see during the summer holidays, the situation became a little bit more normal. And then during fall, yeah, people stayed more at home again. And this is how it went. And of course, on top of that, we received a lot of very interesting GIS data that we have also been able to analyze. For instance, like accessibility, how do the people travel to the travel center or the city center, etc. And so, of course, together with the university, the LUT University, we have been researching and considering what would be the policy recommendations for future pilots. So of course, like there are a lot of strengths of our model and application. For instance, the motivational aspects are very important, and it's a very good tool to support user sustainability transition. And of course, what is important is that because of the CityCap pilot, the topic of personal carbon trading is back on the table. And then to mention the weaknesses, of course, like the possibility to cheat, that's a question, of course, especially in a case that it would be like an obligatory tool that would be in use. Well, then on the other hand, if it's voluntary, it interests only some citizens, as we can imagine. Technical improvements, if we look at our pilot or our app, would be needed. It's a complex topic, so you need to consider how you communicate it. And of course, like we only had mobility in our app, and it would be necessary to have also the other consumption sectors so that everyone would have the possibility to reduce maybe on some sector more and then on some other sector a little bit less. And yeah, opportunities, ICT technology opens up all the possible doors, as we already heard today. It's fair. And yeah, well, mandatory PCT is an opportunity, but of course, there's a lot of questions. And when it comes to threats, PCT may be subject to taxation. That depends on the legal situation and the tax laws of every country. Well, and then of course the CO2 price, that's the question. And like with every application, the long-term attractivity is a question that has to be really addressed. And what did we learn? Well, of course, we learned that to do something like this and to lead it by the city is possible. Communication is definitely the key. You need to know what audience you are talking to. Everything and anything can happen. And what is also very important when you develop an application, you need to keep it very simple. You really need to concentrate on something and stick to that. There is always, well, there should be always more time, so you have to use it well. And yeah, city is not a company, therefore we need help from different sectors and the cooperation between different parties. And yeah, here you can see our partners. So there were the local universities and then 5 companies that were involved. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the beginning, but our project was funded by the Urban Innovative Actions, an EU program. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. Really inspiring case you have there. I have to start with the communication. You mentioned that the communication is key. You have built an excellent app and the system behind it and all the calculations, but teach us something. How did you reach the people and get people to use the app?
Yeah, I think you need to use all kind of channels. So you need to organize events where the people can really come and they can you can help them to download the app. You need to introduce the app. You need to tell them how to use it. And then on the other hand, for some other groups, for instance, like younger people, you need to do a lot of social media marketing. You need to have it on hand. So I guess it also really depends on the target group. And when you have different ages, you want to have all of them on board, then all kind of channels need to be in use.
Did you prioritize one target group or were your target group all the citizens in Lahti?
Yeah, we had all the citizens because we wanted to, of course, also when you do research at the same time, you want to have all different age groups and also social economic groups. Yeah. And that's actually that we also, it worked well. We had all the different groups.
Yeah. And I actually think that is one of the key points behind this, that the in a bigger picture, the transformation to climate neutral cities have to be fair. And this is something where you really take a look on the fairness of the transformation. You also mentioned that one of the weakness is complexity. Now, if there is maybe a little bit smaller municipality at the line, thinking that how could they implement, for example, my hometown Loimaa from the western Finland, how should they start if they want to implement this kind of experiment?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think you can personal carbon trading, like carbon trading, that's a very complex topic, but you can also start with like using a carbon footprint calculator, for instance, because like as we noticed, that information on your own emissions is very important. And then I guess like with also more simple solution, you can really bring it to everyone's face that what they are causing.
Exactly, you can start with only the information sharing. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sarah, did you use the app?
Yes, I did, but I'm not going to admit that I cheated. It was actually quite interesting. First, we had some problems, some technical issues with that too.
Even the cyber attack.
Yeah. But then again, it was quite like an automatic thing. You just had the app ongoing, and the data that it provided, it created like a challenge to each week. Can I actually reduce even more than last week?
Some gamification there.
Sort of, yeah.
Wonderful. We have one more. Should we go on? Last but not least, we have Johan Höglund from Infracontrol Sweden. Infracontrol helps to create society that functions better through IT solutions that are more user-friendly, useful and intelligent. And I'm happy to say that Infracontrol have joined our Sitowise family or Sitowise team recently, earlier this year. But now Johan will tell us more about Infracontrol Online, the smart city platform. What is it and how can you use it and how to implement it? The floor is yours, Johan.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for welcoming me to Infracontrol to the Sitowise family. Yes, I will talk about our platform, but I will actually talk about sustainability, the theme for today. I think you can see my screen now. We work in a very practical way with sustainability and helping municipalities, among others, to provide solutions for a more sustainable future. I'm very happy to be a part of this event today, and I must thanks to all the former speakers because I think this topic is really important for us all. Infracontrol is a smaller company, a system integrator. We work with different IT solutions to help our customers to take better control over the society's infrastructure. It's about traffic management, traffic control systems. It's about automation, but also a platform which I will talk about today to help mainly municipalities to simplify everyday life. Everyone knows it has been talked about today about the sustainability goals. We need a more sustainable society. We all know that. They are all connected together, but at Infracontrol we focus mostly on the number 11, of course, sustainable cities and communities. And I am very happy to see that this is not only like paperwork or something people talking about. We meet this in small municipalities or in bigger cities, both in Sweden and Portugal where we work, in national or regional administration. So it really is a part of the daily work in many different ways. In a practical way, we make sure that we together do what we can to take care of our common resources and our society. And there is a growing demand for a more sustainable society, as we all know. And the possibilities to do that have never been greater in our field. There are constantly new technical solutions. There are new possibilities to share data. You can connect people and organizations. Everybody is talking about smarter cities. But what makes a city smart? And the answer to that is, of course, people. A smart city needs smart citizens. Among all the technical solutions, all systems and sensors, as we have heard about today, the citizen engagement is a major and very important part of this. The smartest sensors are people. They are living their life in our common society. They see things, they feel things, they discover problems, and they have valuable experience to take part of. People make choices, people care, and they also want to participate. So that is maybe my most important message today, that citizens and technical solutions can collaborate in order to create a more sustainable society. And we really need that. I will show you some pictures now from smart cities, or almost smart cities anyway. Many things doesn't work well because there is a lack of control. There is a lack of surveillance, and we don't really know what is happening out there. All investments, all facilities we have created, the society's infrastructure, all work and all efforts, all the money we spend on maintenance. Sustainability, I think, is to make sure that all this works and can fulfill its purpose. Because what does it help if you have like a self-driving car connected if the streets are not possible to use? In a smart city, surveillance of technical installations ensures the availability of society's infrastructure. And that can be done in many different ways, with technical solutions, surveilling traffic or technical facilities, measuring traffic flow or whatever. But as I said before, one of the most valuable sources of information is actually people living in our society, reporting things. So we can make sure that things work and that all the investments and the costs for maintenance is spent and used in a good way. The customers we work with, they have discovered this as a very important part of their daily operations. So they take help from citizens to report things they discover. It can be technical stuff not working. It can be dangerous things. It can be littering. It can be different things that make the daily life more complicated or not very sustainable. Today, there are a lot of questions about safety, and that is also about both technical installations working and the reports from people not feeling safe. So all this information gathered together make sure that we can take care of our common resources in a good way. So, as I said, with the people as the most smart sensors we have, to create a collaboration with them, municipalities and cities can help out to create a more sustainable future together. There are many things within this field, of course, but one of the most important things is to take care of what we get. And maybe this is what drives me and Infracontrol, and I know also Sitowise in our mission to help our customers to take better care of what we already got. Just to show you a little bit what this means in practical. In a normal city, 80% of the cases they handle, the calls, the things they handle every day is about daily small trouble that people meet in the streets, so to speak. And what we do is to help them to collect this information, both from citizens, but also from technical installations together, and provide this information to someone who will fix the problem and also surveil that it's really done. Afterwards, we help to analyze why this is happening. How many reports do we have? How much problems with the streetlights? How many potholes or reports about littering? Or do the contractors responsible for different areas really fulfill their contracts? So it's a kind of quality assurance tool for helping municipalities and cities to make sure things work. The main group of our customers are Swedish municipalities, but we also have a lot of municipalities in Portugal. This picture just shows some figures showing that this is really up and operating since many years and do a lot of good in many different cities. One part of this is to help people report problems. And as you know, we have this app for reporting problems, which we provide to the citizens, collecting the information. And I will not go too deep into this today, but it's interesting to gather all this information together and try to understand what do people meet in their daily life. And when you know that, you also know what you should improve to make things work better. The other part about was monitoring, connecting technical stuff to this service. Many different kinds, and I will not have time to go through this today, but there are many different ways to collect information from many different kind of sources. And as you have heard about the Internet of Things, there are a lot of sensors installed for different purposes. Anyway, together with sensors, together with reports from citizens, you get a grip on how things are working. You can have this kind of dashboard showing how is my city feeling today, what problems do we have to take care of. But the most important thing is maybe to make sure that everything is detected, everything is reported, everything is taken care of in some way, so that someone really takes care and makes sure that things work. What has this to do with sustainability? Yeah, as I began to talk about, this is about taking care of what we already got, with all the investments, with all the costs for maintenance, with all the efforts we have in different ways. We should do this, take care of our society in a better way, and also take advantage of the possibility to collaborate with the citizens in order to create a more sustainable society together. I don't exactly know my time now, but I think I will stop there and leave some time for some questions maybe.
Thank you for a great presentation, Johan. I really enjoyed it a lot.
It went very fast.
It always does.
Being last today, I think I should hurry up a little.
You have been there before.
That was great. I would like to actually hear a bit more about the users. What kind of users you've had with the Infracontrol online? Have they been children, youth, or maybe older people, or who are they?
I don't have the exactly data on that. Children I don't know about, but we know that young people are engaging a lot because they are used to this way of communicating. They like to report things. They also think that things should work, so they are eager to report. But also elderly people think that this is a convenient way instead of complaining in a complicated way to the municipality to report things in a very simple way. It helps them also to be a part of the society.
Interesting. I also think that when we were testing the CityCap here, we actually find out that many of the elderly people are also utilizing this kind of new tools. So we might have got a wrong image about that too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The one thing that you didn't mention that much is that if I have understood right, which I find a really like an important part of the application, is that when the citizen gives a report, he or she also can follow if the city has already do the maintenance work or if there is a reason why they cannot fix the problem. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. The communication, as we have said earlier today, is very important both ways, not only reporting things, but also communicate back to the citizens to inform them about things or answer questions. So this creates a dialogue, a positive, creative dialogue between the citizen and the municipality, and also can also contain more people in the same issue, so to speak. So it creates a very good collaboration.
Exactly. And there is no cities from Finland yet that are using Infracontrol online. Am I right? But maybe in the near future.
You're right. We're hoping for that, of course, and I think the need should be there. As we discovered in Portugal, for example, it's a country very far away, but the needs and the way of using this platform or the app is exactly the same. So I hope that we can find some customers in Finland as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Johan. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, it's almost time. Well, actually, it was the time 2 minutes ago. But
Yeah.
So what will happen next?
Well, our Green Capital year is soon to actually end, but we are actually launching new programs also during our year. So we are going to invest a lot to carbon neutral construction, but also smart mobility. But one of the topics that Jennifer touched in his talk was the nature and cities relationship. And that's something that I would like to maybe conclude on, because we have just launched a new program called Nature Steps to Health that will go on actually for 10 years here. We're going to use the Lahti region as a test bed for that. And we've invited a lot of scientists also joining this, but I'm hoping that you would also be maybe interested about this, because cities are thinking about nature and biodiversity questions even more than they have been previously.
Yeah, that's definitely a raising question. And probably you can say that the Green Capital year this is not an ending point for anything, but maybe a starting point for something even more greener Lahti.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We as a Sitowise, we will continue with the Smart City Talks, these events. The next event will be in February. Our main event will be next year, September. We will have plenty of these events next year. If you have any topics, any themes in your mind that you want to hear us talking here regarding the cities, smart cities, sustainability in cities, please let us know. The next event will probably be about creativity. That how can we maybe accelerate the creativity in cities, and what is the role of creativity in planning and designing cities?
Sounds very promising indeed. I really wait for that.
But thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much, and also I want to thank all presenters for having all these really great talks. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, our great audience. Let's keep the dialogue on in social media. See you.